name is Carolyn Ray, and I'm the CEO and editor at JourneyWoman. This is a very exciting year for us because it's our 30th anniversary. So hard to believe, 30 years ago, Evelyn Hannon started JourneyWoman with just a printed newsletter and then went online in 1997. And here we are 30 years later. And I have to giggle a little bit that solo travel has become so popular again when I really think a lot of that happened in the 90s, but it's all wonderful. It's all great. And today we're going to be talking about less traveled Europe. And some of you might know we published back in December our list of 30 less traveled places for women to travel to in 2024. And so what we're doing is a series of webinars kind of regionally on each of these areas so that we can talk about them a little bit and explore them. And we've invited our partners from our Women's Travel Directory to join us. And if you haven't visited our Women's Travel Directory, this is a free service that we have created for women where we vet and curate. We have over 150 companies in there now, mostly women-owned businesses that are providing women with very unique and bespoke tours, small group tours with your interests in mind, as well as small ships, retreats, and train travel, because I really want us all to be thinking about sustainable travel. So take a look through there. We're constantly making improvements to it. And I was just looking today at even garden tours. There's quite a few garden tours, culinary tours, photography. There's all kinds of different things in there. But today we have a selection of experiences from our directory. And I'm going to ask each of our speakers to say hello while I figure out how to get them in the spotlight. So I'm going to start with Ginny Lunn first from WalkingWomen. Ginny, if I could ask you just to say hello and introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. It's very good to be here. I'm Ginny, and I own and run WalkingWomen with my sister. And WalkingWomen is not a new company. It's been going for 24 years this year, and my sister and I took it over in 2021. So, I mean, there's a story behind that, but I might tell that. Do you want that now, Carolyn, or should I just?
Well, let's save it and we'll come back to it in a second.
Yeah. So that's who I am, run the company with my sister.
Great. And Zoe Shapiro.
Hi,
from
everybody.
StellaVision.
Yeah, my name is Zoe, and I'm the founder and CEO of StellaVision Travel. We are a boutique agency based here in Italy. I'm speaking to you from Rome tonight. And we're about taking female travelers far past the tourist barrier and showing like a very authentic, on the ground Italy. So I'm very excited to be chatting to you about Europe.
And of course, I was just in Italy, but I missed meeting Zoe when I was.
Because I had the flu, but we get to spend time together tonight.
Yeah, no, it's all good. And Joyce Sherman from Joyride Charters.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I started Joyride Charters, which is a sailing company that we do sailing charters all over the world. Started in 20 years ago, 2004, I got my captain's license. So I do mostly women travel. I think that kind of happened naturally because I'm a female captain. And yeah, it's been really great. I've been very busy, especially after COVID. Women are adventurous and I love taking them sailing.
Wonderful. So we have sailing, we have walking, we have Italy. What other countries do you all have experience in? And maybe I'll start with you, Joy, that you've been to recently in Europe.
In Europe. Recently, I just finished Croatia for the first time, and I did 2 weeks of charters there of 4 boats, and I loved it. Croatia and Greece alike, both fabulous places to sail. And I'm sure land as well. I always encourage people to do land tours as well as the sailing part. They're very different, but really, really nice. Yeah.
I can only imagine sailing through the Greek islands or the Croatian islands. It sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zoe, what about you? Where would you say you're expert in terms of European?
So, I am just across the Adriatic from Joy, and StellaVision is primarily based in Italy. And so we have like a depth of experience in this one country, but you may know that Italy is the #1 destination in the world. So there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of tourist traps, which is what we want to help our travelers avoid. And the other thing I'll add is I'm sure for many of these places in the world, sometimes before you've traveled to them, whether it be Mexico or China, it feels like a monolith. And I think that's true of Italy as well. But once you have the lay of the land and you're off, the typical tourist beat, there is so much diversity to experience in a particular country. And that's why we've chosen to specialize in Italy.
Yeah, agree. Having just spent a few months there, I felt like I was going to a different country every time I went to a different part. So
And the South truly is a different country than the North, but we will have that argument a different time.
Yeah. And Ginny, what about you?
Yeah, well, we look for where there's fabulous walks. So it could be the high mountains of Switzerland, and we have this amazing walk, which a lot of people don't know. We cross the very heart of Switzerland, and we go through, there's a place called Algi, and it's the very heart of Europe. So we try and encourage women who might fancy a different route through Switzerland, where you also see some of the great mountains like the Eiger that most people know about. And walks like that. Last year we had the group solo travelers, but who came together, but they were all over 60, and they did, a trek that lasted 5 days, carrying your bag. So what I always say as well is we find amazing walks, but we also make it very accessible. We go slowly. We're very keen to encourage women of all ages. We always say it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still be active. We can help you be active. So we look for mountains, and we also look for, we have a walk in Sicily. So you might know Sicily, but there we focus a bit more on the wine. And we walk through vineyards, we walk through hills, it's not mountains, and it's a lot of culture. So we have a mix of, those kind of more gentle walks, and then the higher mountains. So we have a really wide range, but they're always in places where we have local guides who are from the area, they know their country, and they always guide us. And all our guides are women, I should have said that. And we also try to find hotels run by women. So it's all very, and we work with businesses, taxi drivers who are women. So that's our priority, is to find as much as possible women's businesses to support.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually have spent a lot of time in Europe in the last little while, much to my surprise, because it is true what you say, Zoe. It's like you say, think sometimes you've been to one country, but you haven't really been to the whole country. And I was fortunate to spend 2 months in Italy and a couple of weeks in Sicily. I spent some time in Malta. I just came back from Norway, and last winter spent 3 months in Malaga, Spain, and traveled all over Spain. And then in a few weeks, I'm off to Switzerland for a train trip, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. So I'd love to know from all of you, what do you think makes Europe so special for women, and why should women go to Europe? What is it about it that really makes it compelling from your perspective? Whoever would like to answer that.
I'll jump in. I think Europe is classic. I think as long as there's been leisure travel and some of the first recorded experiences, novels, travel writings, they point towards Europe a lot of the time. And I think there has been, in the last few years especially, like a reclamation of that women can have these experiences independent of, something that I always say is, I'm here for the people who want a honeymoon in Italy. It is a romantic place, but if I have to hear one more person say they're going to wait for their honeymoon to go to Italy, because like I said, there's so much Italy to be seen. And I think the idea that women can go to Europe alone and have really fulfilling, culturally rich, diverse experiences is something that is new. it is still, you know, first world countries often with a reasonable amount of transit that make getting into the places and getting out. And then you can rely on pros like us to take you off the beaten paths to the places that are harder to reach.
That's great. Jenny, what are your thoughts? Why should women go to Europe?
Well, because actually we have a lot of our guests come from Canada and America, and actually we had one of our first walks after COVID. A woman flew over from Vancouver to Norway to cross-country ski, and so we have a lot of that. How come you come so far? And it's because they say, you know, it's the variety, it's the fact that I think you said, Carolyn, you can go with, you know, a short distance and it's like you're in different countries, and, you know, the language is interesting, different foods. And I think, you know, it's just, there's so much to offer, and it's very easy to get around. And trains now, you know, as you mentioned, Carolyn, there's really new trips are opening up. I think Zurich is talking about having a direct line to London in 6 hours. You know, I recently went from London to Paris to Barcelona to right down to Andorra, where we were walking, you know, through France, and all by train. And they're so efficient, and, you know, you can just sit back and relax. So I think that also is something you don't get so much in the States or Canada, that ease of moving around.
I went from London to Budapest by train for last, and, you know, stops along the way in the Christmas markets, and ended up in Prague and then Budapest and Vienna. And you're right, it's so, and it's also, I think, less stressful.
Yeah,
you're not having to go through an airport, and, you know, you kind of carry what you've got is what you carry, and it's always with you. So
and also the Wi-Fi is usually not bad, so you can, if you're like us, sort of nomadic travelers working as well, I find you can still do that. And I did the overnight from Paris to Rome, Zoe. That, I don't know if you've ever done that. I did have this image, it was going to be a bit like the Orient Express. It wasn't, but it was still very nice. It's a really good journey, because you just wake up and you're in Rome. It's lovely.
Yeah. Joy, what's your thoughts on Europe and why it's important for women?
I think that the compactness of so many different countries nearby, kind of nearby each other, the history, the food. I encourage on these trips, people are mostly solo travelers and we meet together, and we're in these areas of Europe that are off the beaten path just naturally because they're accessible by boats or ferries. And I think that that alone is just amazing for anybody, but especially for women, especially the camaraderie that comes when you're traveling on a boat, doing everything together. Yeah.
Wonderful. I want to talk a bit about each of you and your businesses briefly, and because, you know, as a woman entrepreneur, I want to help other women entrepreneurs, and I know how hard it has been to keep all these businesses going through the pandemic. And but tell us a bit about why each of you started your businesses and what you're hoping to do with them with regards to women's travel. And Ginny, maybe I'll start with you this time.
Okay. So it's very clear for me. Well, sadly, my partner died in 2015, and she'd just given up work so we could travel and do, you know, more adventures. And, you know, I think on our walks, I've talked to a lot of women in a similar position that I was in, where, you know, your life just dramatically changes. It was, you know, for me, it was quite shocking. Everything changed, and I just didn't know how to holiday. That was the worst thing. I just thought, I don't know how to holiday now. We always used to holiday together. I really didn't like group travel. I thought, oh, can't do group travel. And everyone said to me, you should go on a WalkingWomen holiday, because it's, you know, safe space for women. It's very supported. So anyway, I went to Norway for my first trip. And whilst there, someone said, even then, it was 2016, that the owner who had the business was looking for a new home for it, because she wasn't well, she couldn't walk so much. So anyway, from even then I started thinking, oh, maybe this is a new something I could do, because you know, I could provide something. I understand what it's like for women who might be, you know, leaving husbands behind, having partners that have died, really feeling they don't know how to holiday. So that's a big part of my vision for Walking Women, is to provide safe spaces where women feel whatever's going on in their lives, they can be themselves, they can get out, they can adventure, they can holiday again. And we hear it time and time again that, you know, it's what people are looking for, as long, you know, they really want to feel that they can be themselves. They can talk about their experiences, but they can also get away from it and just meet new people sometimes. So yeah, that's the story. And so in 2021, my sister said, oh, I'll support you. She's a good sister. I'll help you out as you start off. And yeah, we bought it in 2021 and have had 2 very good years starting out, growing all the time. And yeah, JourneyWoman, Carolyn, you've been great, because it is also good to get the support of other networks, which is why I really like this.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And Zoe, what about your story? Tell us a bit about you.
I mean, Ginny, I think our trips that we offer are very, very distinct from one another, but our values are in lockstep, because I actually came to Italy personally for a work abroad year. I was working remotely, and fate sort of turned on a dime for me, and I never left. And it really became clear that there was something missing in the marketplace. StellaVision aims to speak to women who are savvy, who are looking for community and shared experiences, and perhaps your travel budget or your time off or your personal family experiences don't align perfectly with someone to travel to. So StellaVision was created to let solo female travelers sort of not wait to take the trip of their dreams anymore. And Italy is a fantasy destination. So that was the primary focus. And then we sort of doubled down on that, particularly highlighting niche communities, because I think as soon as you get even closer lensed to a community, there's fewer and fewer options. So I'm so proud that like some big publications like Condé Nast and the New York Times have started to take notice of what we're doing specifically for these community trips. So whether that be size inclusive trips or queer inclusive trips, to enable women to have this like wonderful holiday, to ensure that you're on holiday from before you leave your destination, because all of the planning and organization is done. And I'll throw a fact at you, which not many people are aware, but savvy travelers typically spend 30 to 40 hours planning a trip. And that is time I give back to my clients, because even if you were to spend 40 hours, with all due respect, it's rare that you'll do it as well as someone who lives and breathes it and lives in the community. So we create holidays that start by giving you your time back at home, collaborating and having amazing experiences with like-minded women, and particularly in niche community groups as well. And then there's all the fun stuff that we layer on, like all the amazing cultural and sea-specific and culinary activities that we do.
Great. That's great. I think it's, you know, I really want JourneyWoman to be a place for all women. So having you as part of our directory is really important to me. And I'm both of you, all of you, but yeah, making travel accessible to everybody is important. And Joy, tell us a bit about you and how you got started on the sea.
Interestingly, I had no intention of getting my captain's license. I grew up on the water. As a kid, we lived in the Bahamas on a boat. And when I got older, I went to work for my dad in the car business. Again, then he sold the business. I went to work for Yale University, but I was always sailing. And I had just broken up with my boyfriend. We had sailed his boat for years. And I said, I'm just going to go get my captain's license. Just wanted to get it, nothing more. And So I did, and the Coast Guard recognized all my experience and gave me a 100-ton license, which is a pretty good license. And my father was like, he was at that time, he wasn't really interested in women's, he had a hard time with women in business. But when I got the license, he was very encouraging. He wanted me to do something with it, and he was sick at that point. So I was like, oh, I got to appease him and work it out. But he found a boat for me, and he said, I will negotiate the boat for you, but you have to buy it. So I bought my first boat. I went into business here for 10 or 12 years, doing charters out of Connecticut, which I still do. I still take people on daily charters in the summertime. And then I started working my way into the Caribbean and then finally Europe, and it's just blossomed. It's so busy. I did a lot of co-ed charters and I still do it, but it seems that we have a much better time when we're by ourselves and we explore places together. We go out to eat, or I now have hostesses on the boat all the boats that make breakfast and lunch, and we go out to dinner, especially in Europe. There's so much great food and wine, of course. And every day we make swim stops. So I've changed the business around a little bit to make it more relaxing, especially as I get older and my clientele seem to be in the 50 to 70, even 80. You know that Diana Eden, she came on the boat and had a fabulous time, I think. And yeah, so I encourage women from all over and all ages to come. So the business is morphing more and more into, as the time goes on and as we age, it's just getting better, I think.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, so Diana Eden, for those of you who don't know, is one of our writers. She's 83 and just went on Joy's trip to the Virgin Islands and wrote an article about it for JourneyWoman. So she is really an inspiration.
Yes.
To all of us. And she brought her younger sister, so even better, right?
Younger at 80.
Younger at 80.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we know that Europe is overcrowded, over touristed at certain times of the year. I try to travel to Europe in the off season or in the low season just to give myself space to enjoy it in its natural state. But I'd love to hear from each of you what your, top recommended places are that women go to and when, because, we all may want to go to Rome, but we may not want to go in July. So what would your top places be? And Zoe, I'll start with you on that one.
Sure. Well, one of my places where I leave my heart really every time I go there is Sicily. And for those of you who are not familiar with the geography, Sicily is the largest island and an independent state. And it is a different culture, though it is part of Italy. The language can be a little bit different. The whole island is magnificent. And this year we launch our Sicilian trip, which is all about experiencing the different eras and the true varieties of Sicily, from the absolute ancient monuments, and some of you will know, some of you might not, but some of the best preserved Grecian temples in the world are not in Greece, they are in Sicily. And then we hop into Baroque Sicily and the bustle of modern Palermo. So Sicily always comes to mind. And then as Joy will know, there is a island chain, an archipelago off the northeast shoulder of Sicily called the Aeolian Islands. And it is the most important volcanic chain in the world other than Hawaii. And it's really fascinating as an intersection of like luxe, vacation, gorgeousness, and prehistoric habituates and island life. And it's somewhere that, most tourists are here to come to Amalfi. For those who do get to Sicily, even fewer get to the Aeolian Islands. So it is really spectacular to take, and we do a sailing trip as well through the Aeolian Islands. But in all of my trips, even in Rome, which is bustling and over touristed. The way I say is, I'll help you book your Colosseum tour. If you come to Rome, you shouldn't miss the Vatican museums. But there are people that do that better than I. I'm here to show women a different side of Rome, the Rome they wouldn't know about, the Rome that they wouldn't think to include in a 3 or 4 day itinerary. And that's what we specialize in, and to introduce you to the Italians that you would never meet. So there is off the beaten path Italy everywhere, even in the most busy places. There's off the beaten path Italy. You might just need a connection to find it, but now you all have one.
Great. And Joy, what would be your off the beaten track place in Europe?
Well, as you mentioned about shoulder season, I only do my European trips during shoulder season. It won't be in the middle of the summer. May is Greece usually, and actually this year I go to Sicily in the Aeolian Islands in September. And Croatia I did in September as well. I think that the islands are much better. Not only are they less crowded, but I can find dock space. It's very hard to find dock space right in the towns during the high season. And frankly, it's pretty hot there then. So we go on the shoulder season. And I would say that, yeah, Croatia, Greece, and now the Aeolian is going to be probably my regular schedule because they're so popular and there's so much to see. And as though I totally agree with you, you can go around a corner and be off the beaten path somewhere. And every time I go, and I'll be going to Greece for my 7th time this year, it's new every time I go, you know?
Yeah. So where in Croatia, because I'm just curious, because I was in Hvar and what I remember, I was there in October, and what I remember was they were literally shutting down the stores as we walked out of town. It was like, then it's closed, like places like closed down for the winter. Split, I think would probably stay open most of the year, but some of the islands are definitely shutting down, are they not? In the
Yeah, they get cold. I think it gets cold there, and you know, in Greece, the same thing. Ionian Islands in Greece, October, they say it gets very, very cold, and you know, just a damp cold. Not, you see snow up in the mountains there, but it's just a damp kind of cold. But yeah, so I would say that happens around mid-October. But you know, with global warming, it's warm.
Shoulder seasons are shrinking in Europe.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I just want to ask folks, if you want to put some questions in the chat, we'll start taking questions right after this. But Jenny, what about you? What's your favorite kind of less traveled place in Europe?
I know that's so many, but I mean, with being a walking company, we also go, we look at the weather, and with global warming, you have to choose, you know, places, for example, like we go to Norway in the summer now because it's much, much cooler. And, you know, you can still swim in the lakes, and it's absolutely empty of people walking. So if you go, it's a place called Espadalen. The hotel we stay in is in Dalseta, but you basically go from Oslo up to Lillehammer, and then you go across. It's about 3.5 hours from Oslo. But, you know, walking somewhere like that for me is so special because you just do not see people. So it's one of our most popular now. It's very, very popular, especially actually with Canadians and Americans who just like the idea of being somewhere completely different. The hotel is, you look out the window and there's just mountains, empty spaces. If you're extremely quiet, you can see moose, but most of our women aren't extremely quiet, I must say, when they're walking, even though we say go quietly. So, you know, so there's places like that. And then Spain, you know, as I'm here now, we go to the Alpujarras, which is little white villages. And there's a place called Jaén, which nobody knows, I don't think. So Virginia Woolf lovers may, but it's a tiny village with amazing walking. And it's where Virginia Woolf went and walked around and wrote from there back in her time. So we go in her footsteps. But and again, we found a lovely hotel run by a woman, And, you know, you can see flamenco. We saw films that were Virginia Woolf films, and, you know, it was a very different experience.
What's the spelling of that place in Spain?
It's Yegen, and I'm probably not pronounced. I was told, yeah, it's Yegen. And I mean, it's from where I am right now. It's 2 hours into the mountains, but it's literally a village alone. But you can go. So we're going this year, and you go to Granada. So we have a bit of culture in Granada, and we see, you know, parts of Granada with our local guide, and then we go off on the bus. So you go around all the little villages to get to this place where we base ourselves to walk. So there's places like that I love finding. And, you know, if you like cities, though, there's one, I think someone was talking about Spain on the chat, but Malaga, a lot of people don't know that Malaga has the best festive lights at Christmas in the world. You know, it's incredible. So we do a weekend there, or, you know, a few days, and people are crying. It's just, you know, there's music.
Yeah, well, I can attest to that. I was there for 2 months, and they have a light show 3 times a night on that street.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? It's just, you know, things like that are just unique. And of course, people go, Spanish people know it, and they pile in. But we go away from the weekend so that you can go on the Thursday night and then enjoy walking along the coast and doing other things. So yeah, I love finding those kind of places people don't know. And we rely on people telling us, and, you know, our local guides saying, well, you won't know about this, why don't you come with the group?
Yeah.
So
my latest discovery is Malta, where I just came back from February, and I literally, and I hate to admit this to all of the experienced travelers that are watching this, but I did not know where Malta was. And I knew I was going to Sicily and Italy, and I saw this little dot on the map, and I said, what is that? And zoomed in, and here it is, Malta. And what an amazing place, and the history, and you know, the Knights of St. John, and all of the I mean, sailing, my gosh, it would be a beautiful place to sail in. So
I know. And did you get to Gozo? Did you get to Gozo? Because that's a little tiny island just across, isn't it?
Yes, and they have a high-speed ferry as well that comes from Sicily.
Yeah. And you can swim it, apparently. I'm a bit of a swimmer, but you can swim it.
Not me.
Oh, yeah. I want to take some questions from the chat. So let me just see what we have here. Let me see what we have here. I think there was a question about when's the best time to go to Sicily.
May I take that one?
Yeah.
So I guess my first question would be, what are you going to Sicily for? If you are primarily looking for a swimming holiday, and like, I would look at what is considered peak season, but in Sicily, you'll have gorgeous temperatures in June and September, and people are in the water on the southeast coast of the island yesterday as well. So there can be swimming year round. And I would say if you're looking for like temperate, but swimming is plausible, look at June, but especially September and October as well. May, the water hasn't heated up as much as in the fall season. Then again, if you're going for culture, I would enjoy the less expensive rates of like the true off season, and know that compared to some of our North American or British winters, that Sicily is pretty beautiful all year. Like here in Rome, we're hovering at about a high of 18 degrees. For those of fellow Canadians, someone might need to do the Fahrenheit math for me, please. Even in February. So I would say if you're looking for straight culture, get as off season as you can and think about February or November. There's also some interesting saints days that happen at various times throughout the year. So you could build your trip around an incredible Easter experience, or you know, any one of the namesakes from those small Baroque towns. They put on a show. But if you're thinking about wine and the harvest, the Vendemmia is October.
Yeah, if I could add to that, Zoe, having just been in Sicily end of January to middle of February was when I was there. And you're right about the saints. It was it was Saint Agatha in Catania, was just starting when I was there. And oh my goodness, I cannot remember all the saints for Palermo. But
crowded deck.
But
is the most famous.
But having been there, the weather was very nice. And as you say, all of those, you know, archaeological places, Syracuse and Mount Etna, and all of these places are just as nice, I think, in the winter as they would be in the summer. And in fact, Syracuse was the most beautiful sunny day. I've put some pictures up on our Solo Travel Wisdom Facebook group from that trip. And I'm so happy that I went that time of year because there was no crowds. So, and it was really fun to see the festival starting, and I have a few memorabilia. I should have grabbed them before the call, but anyways, yeah, I personally think January, February was an amazing time to be in Sicily.
Someone's also asked, just to add on while we're here, about the flowers in Sicily. So I'm not sure if you're referring to the floral festival in Noto, the Infiorata, but that happens in May. So if that's what you are inquiring about for flowers in Sicily, that is May in the town of Noto.
Great. There's a question here, and I think it might be for Ginny. My girlfriend wants to go to the White Hills in Spain. Her ancestors came from there. Do you have any experiences to share about that area?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because the White Hills I'm thinking is the Upper Sierra Nevada and the Alpujarras, but can you say
Jane,
where it's
that's Jane. Jane, could you maybe add that into the chat?
Yeah, Andalusia. So that's exactly where we focus all of our walks in Andalusia, and it's the white villages, Capilera, Bubion, and that area is where we walk. We base ourselves in Capilera, so it might be around there, because we also go to Yehan, but the actual white villages is probably where you mean. And we have a walk in May before it gets too hot, and then again late October. Yes, the Pueblo Blancos. Yeah, that's up in the Alpujarras. So yes, we do. So if you want to talk about anything or join us, we would love to have you. Our guide is up there. She's up there in the snowy blizzard mountains at the moment doing snow sports, but she does some amazing walks up there.
Yeah, I think walking sounds amazing. I would love to do that, because I often so think of like some of the walks we know well, but the walks that you're doing are definitely much lesser known places. It would be really interesting.
I know you have to join us, Carolyn.
I would love to. Are you kidding?
If you feel like a real challenge, we've got which I'm very excited about. I'm going to do the Lighthouse Way, which a lot of people know, and actually Connie on this call is doing the Camino. A lot of people, want to do the Camino. It's a really good trek, but we're also doing in September the Lighthouse Way, where you walk down you start north of Santiago and you go all the way along the coast of Galicia, 200 kilometers, and we do between 32 kilometers a day, but it's not steep, so you're going gently over the cliffs, always with the sea on your right. So there's 8 of us so far, but we've got 4 places, and we're looking for some adventurous women to walk. So Carolyn, that might be you.
we'll talk after.
We've got 6 months. We've got 6 months to get really fit. That's what I'm thinking. I've got to do that as well.
That's good to have a goal for sure.
Yeah.
I saw a question here on Malta and the best time to visit, and I'm not exactly sure, but what I will tell you is when I was there in February, it was just the beginning of Carnival, and I wish I could have stayed for the whole 5 days or whatever. I was just there for the first day or two, and again, very nice weather, very cool. we're all dealing with climate change, obviously, and being able to go places when it's a little cooler, I think is going to be more of a trend that we'll see. And especially going north in the summer, perhaps, and going south in the winter. So yeah, I know we've just got a little bit of time left. I want to make sure we get all the questions. So keep putting them in if you've got questions to ask. But I also know that these wonderful women have some special offers for all of you that are listening here today. And I want to give them a chance to talk about them, because these trips that we're talking about today are the kind of trip that, I mean, you could do them solo on your own for sure. You could add a solo trip on your own before or after. But some of them, it's hard to sail a boat by yourself. So there are things that they have put together to offer to you if you'd like to join them. So Joy, I'm going to start with you because I think the sailing's amazing.
Thank you. Yes, I offer for any JourneyWomen coming in from this Zoom call 150 off of. I actually have one spot in Greece open right now, so that's open. I've got 2 boats there, which is coming up in May, and I'm offering 150 off of that. Sicily, $100 off for any JourneyWomen that come along. That trip is in September, mid-September. And I know we're not only talking about Europe, but Cuba's a great place. I've been there 4 times, and I've got $200 off for any JourneyWoman who wants to come to Cuba, which that'll be in January of next year.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Zoe?
Sure. So I've gone ahead and created a promo code, so you can check out for any StellaVision travel trip using JourneyWoman, and that'll take 150 USD off of any tour price. And I am going to be in the Aeolians in June with 2 catamarans, a private chef, some incredible adventures. And then we have our flagship tour from Rome through Basilicata. You might have heard of the town of Matera, through to Puglia, back through Campania. So it's an incredibly diverse taste of Italy. And that is happening in July. And then my Sicilian mainland trip is going to be dropping next week, but your promo code will work on any of our tours, including our size inclusive tours. We have one on sale now and a very exciting announcement coming up.
Excellent. And Ginny?
Yeah, we have as you book, you put JW24 as your promo code, and that takes off. We're in British pounds, so it's £100 off for all JourneyWoman guests that we have coming on. So I don't know what. Yes, you have to. I've forgotten. I'm so busy doing euros at the moment, so you'll have to interpret that into US dollars or Canadian dollars.
And what trip is that for, Ginny?
That's for, or any trip.
Oh, any trip. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. And we put the links for all of their listings in the chat here if anyone's interested in looking at more. There was a question here about safety in Europe, and I'd love to get all of your thoughts on the topic of women's safety in Europe. Any thoughts, advice, tips?
Well,
I think you just have.
Go, Joyce.
So, sorry, did you want to kick? Okay, what I would say about safety is that safety for women is not random. Just to be completely transparent, in terms of like grievous harm, it is not random. So when you are being a smart traveler and you are being safe, you are unlikely to come into contact with really malicious people. That being said, I think the sort of milder tourist offenses, pickpockets, things of that nature, that can go across any gender line, and in highly trafficked places like European train stations, like busy European cities, like you can't expect an amount of that sort of petty crime. But something we do, and I'm sure my colleagues do as well, is like prepare our travelers to be safe with both advice in advance of arriving, from packing lists and tips to ensure that you are safe, and also being a presence on the ground. So my travelers know that there is a pair of eyes who is used to the type of environments that can direct us around any small town that we go to, so they can be enjoying while we're watching. So it's kind of that dual role. So if you're smart, if you're savvy, I don't think you need to walk around with fear, but you do need to be a savvy traveler.
Yeah, good advice. And Ginny?
Yep. So that I mean, traveling together in groups, I think, is something we hear is what makes people feel safer. But it's also, as Zoe said, it's the helping women prepare, feel that they are, they know where they're going, they know what to watch out for before they go. And I think we do a welcome at the airport. We try and make sure, you know, if we have got nervous travelers, people feel they're quickly going to be, you know, met, supported, they know exactly how to travel, and, you know, as much as possible, as soon as they arrive in the new country, they're with the group, you know, and they're met. So I think, you know, we do everything we can to make people feel as safe as possible. But luckily, as you said, Zoe, it's, you know, it's rare. We find it's very rare to come across anything that makes women feel so unsafe. You know, it's more actually, we haven't known any pickpocketing or anything like that happening actually at the moment.
Good stuff. And Joy, thoughts from you?
Yeah, I just use my common sense, and I tell everyone to just use your common sense. We end up in Athens for a few days before the trip, the Greece trip, and in that case, any of the other Split or Dubrovnik, and it's just being aware of what's where you know, your surroundings. There's never been any problem. I have to say, one time, and I told people, put your backpack on your front, and this woman put her backpack on her back and left her wallet in the back, and she got pickpocketed in Athens. So, but you know, she knew that she had, you know, she shouldn't have done it like that, because she was walking through crowds of people, and it was a simple thing. And there's a lot of pickpocketing in Greece. So,
Yeah,
but I think it's a wonderfully safe place. Older people, I've done hundreds of people there and never had a problem except this one girl. So
yeah. Well, as we all know, the media tends to go with the negative headlines, and the best resource, I think, is to ask women like yourselves and women that have actually traveled to these places, rather than believing what we read on a headline from someone who has not been there.
Well, exactly. And I was going to say, we had a woman who did leave her mobile phone in a taxi recently in Norway, and they brought it back to the hotel, you know, and she was so panicked, but it came, you know, I think people are genuinely, they don't want people to have bad experiences.
Yeah. What I do, you know, there's a lot of, I have a little system. So I have a crossbody bag that has my stuff in it and never actually leaves my body unless I'm asleep. And then I have a backpack, and then I have a small bag, and sometimes that's a carry-on and sometimes it's not. I do whatever makes me feel comfortable, but whatever it is, it's something I can lift, because I do a lot of train travel and travel on buses and walking. And so I want to make sure I can handle whatever I have. I was just on a trip last week, and with other people who had like 2 checked bags for 1 week, and I could not believe it. So there's a lot of pressure for us to pack light, but packing light isn't just about packing light. Packing light is about safety. And so I think as long as you can carry whatever you bring it, but without feeling the pressure of having to not check a bag, which is kind of a ridiculous thing in my mind. But my system helps me, because I go 1, 2, 3, and that's all I need to know. and I do my 1, 2, 3 check and I'm off. So, so that way you don't forget your stuff lying all over the place. So, this has been great. Are there any other questions that anyone else wants to ask before we before we let you get on with your day? I think we had some really great ideas on some less traveled places in Europe and good safety tips and hopefully a little bit of inspiration about places you can explore in Europe. And I want to mention, if you didn't see it, I interviewed Brooke Steves about Europe when I was in Catania. Actually, I did that from my hotel room, and that's on our website with some more tips and advice from Rick, who is also an expert in Europe. So thank you all for joining today, and hopefully we've inspired you to get out there and try something new.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
having
Carolyn. Thank you.
Carolyn.
Yeah.
We
Nice to
have
meet
another
everyone.
we have another webinar coming up on March 12th on transformational travel and wellness travel. So we'll be sending out information on that if you haven't seen it already. And we're basically doing 1 or 2 webinars a month, looking at different parts of the world and getting advice and different topics. So if you don't see it here, it will be recorded and shared on our website as well. So thanks everybody, and have a wonderful day. And I look forward to hearing about your future travels.